It's the biggest night of the year in Hollywood as Oscar steps into the spotlight for the 29th time. And at the
It's the capital of the film world, a place of glitter and magic.
For the annual Academy Awards presentation ceremony.
But long ago, Native Americans called it the land of smoke, the land of shadow and light. It was a spiritual place. Today, it is still the land of light and shadow, and the spirits still exist. Only now it's called Hollywood.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hollywood. On behalf of Hollywood Fantasy Tours, I'd like to thank you for traveling with us this afternoon. My name is Will. I'll be your guide for the hour. Our driver's name is Alex. Say hello, Alex. As we pull off...
They come from around the world to visit Hollywood, the place where stars are born and dreams are made.
We're headed back to Hollywood Boulevard now, where we will give you a better view of the Hollywood sign.
But in this town, for every dream realized, another dies. And Hollywood is full of stories of lives gone wrong. Perhaps this explains why so many are convinced Hollywood is haunted.
In 1932, there was a young actress by the name of Peg Entwistle. She made one motion picture which flopped. She lost her contract with the studio, and on September 18th of 1932, she climbed to the top of the H, where she jumped. The odd part of the story, the day after she died, a script was delivered to her house, and the story in the script was that of an actress that becomes depressed over her career and tries to commit suicide.
In the sunshine of Southern California, the Hollywood of legends flourished. One of the most famous landmarks and a gathering spot for stars was the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel.
The Hollywood Roosevelt's a really special place. It's not just the industry, it's not just the celebrities, but there's a magic here. It has an energy of its own, a character that exists, and I think it has a lot to do with the energies that existed before they built the building and piled the bricks around whatever was here. I think that sort of thing is timeless. Well, the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel was the brainchild of the people who created Hollywood. Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, Sid Grauman, Fritz Lowe, and a builder named Mr. Toberman. They erected a big sign up on the hill that said Hollywood Land and started selling parcels. They chose this particular spot because it was the location that was the sort of epicenter of all the studios. And they built this hotel, and they decided to name it after a president because that would give it stature.
The Roosevelt opened in 1927, and by 1935 it was joined on Hollywood Boulevard by 12 movie palaces, rivaling Europe's finest opera houses. The most ornate, Grauman's Chinese Theater, opened the same year as the hotel and was built by Hollywood tycoon Sid Grauman. From the beginning, the Roosevelt developed a reputation as a hotspot for paranormal activity and a gateway to the spirit world.
In the Blossom Room, there existed a spot that, right from the very beginning, people would notice was cooler than any place else in the room. And it's like a pillar of air. Psychics then and now have examined the phenomenon, and the way they describe it is that it's like a trapdoor to another plane. And the spirits can wander from one plane to the other plane through this chakra of air that exists.
Recent occurrences are better known. A former member of the hotel staff was cleaning a mirror one day when she noticed the reflection of a blonde woman.
She turned to speak to the person, and there was no one there. When she turned back, the blonde woman still existed in the corner of the mirror. This really unsettled her, but they researched it, thought, what could have caused this? And the mirror actually had been in room 246 that Marilyn Monroe rented on a regular basis. She particularly loved this hotel because the very first money she ever made in Hollywood was for posing for a suntan commercial on the diving board of our pool. And she was very fond of it. She met Arthur Miller here at the Cinegirl Lounge. So they believe that that is why her spirit exists in that mirror.
Another ghostly presence is heard in room 928, where Montgomery Clift practiced the trumpet for his role in From Here to Eternity.
I don't know personally if it's the spirit of Montgomery Clift, but I do know that those occurrences do happen.
When the stars weren't carousing at the Roosevelt Hotel, they could be found at the Knickerbocker, near the corner of Hollywood and Vine. It was at the Knickerbocker that Hollywood legend Rudolph Valentino danced the tango, and Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe honeymooned.
What I had done is converted the old bar into the ultimate 1920s coffee house. The wooden floors and wooden walls are the original from the 1920s, and off to my right is one of the two Liberace chandeliers that I got from his Hollywood Hills mansion, and so is the ice machine. So the ice is compliments of Lee.
Some of the unusual happenings at the All-Star Cafe are sightings of apparitions, disturbances in the bathrooms, a ceiling fan that keeps breaking, and the appearance of Rudolph Valentino's ghost.
Every time he has appeared, I've seen, and several other people, he's dressed in 1920s, dark brown vested suit with a brown fedora, with his head tilted, and off to my left in that corner, which was one of the original entrances to the bar.
Max had told me stories of ghosts and of hauntings and whatnot here, but I had never seen any. And it's sort of like when you hear about something, it's interesting, but until you experience it for yourself, it doesn't really mean much.
We were talking about ghosts and the like and things that were going on, and she was a little skeptical, and that's when the picture started slamming against the wall.
Well, the picture was smaller than this, and it just started going like this, pretty hard, just like that.
She was like, "What is that?" And there's no natural draft. I don't have air conditioning in here. And it just started slapping against the wall, and she goes, "Nice ghost, nice ghost."
Now I definitely think that there are some beings of another time that exist here.
The history of the Knickerbocker is both glamorous and tragic.
D.W. Griffith, who was one of the co-founders of United Artists, in 1948, he died at the hotel underneath the big chandelier in the lobby. The Hollywood that he created had forgotten about him. He died of acute alcoholism. And then in 1962, Irene, the dress designer at MGM, she used to date Gary Cooper while she was still married. And when he died in 1960, she flung herself out the bathroom window on the 11th floor onto the canopy and left a suicide note apologizing for her death and any inconvenience to the hotel guests.
Me and my boyfriend usually try to make a trip down here on Friday, Saturday nights, and we always relax. We always talk about our week, our work days, main events, things that are happening in our lives.
The first time I brought her here, she was just overwhelmed. She really liked it, and she liked the atmosphere. She liked, kind of the more romantic type setting. Just, me and her one-on-one type thing.
The first 2 times that I had been down here with my boyfriend, he had forewarned me that the place had some sightings, things like that, and I was like, okay, I wasn't too worried about it because I'm pretty much open-minded to those things, and I do believe in them.
I came in here, and I was, going about my business, and as soon as I shut the door, I got an eerie feeling like I'm getting it right now, as a matter of fact. It felt as if someone was standing right next to me. You can feel someone watching you. And it was really uncomfortable. I don't know if it was a hostile type of thing but something definitely told me, you need to get out of here. So I took care of business, I washed my hands, and I was bolted out of here as quick as I could.
He's a little freakish about it, but I told him, hey, it's something part of this whole coffee house, and it's something that you have to get used to. The first time it happened, I went to the bathroom and I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, I saw like a a person, like a haze, like in the shape of a person. I felt a strong presence, like it was elegant, like it was female. And it was there about 5 to 10 seconds, and I went right to wash my hands, and then it was gone.
I just don't like to be in here at all.
I did feel like she was just the most beautiful person on earth. You know, it was a pretty white light. It wasn't bright, like a bright shining light in your eyes. It was just like calm and really, really just relaxed, and it was really beautiful. And I would like to think it was Marilyn Monroe, but I couldn't see a face. It is definitely beautiful.
Maybe I'll have to use that restroom the next time I come in, but yeah, definitely not this one.
Anchored near Hollywood in the quiet waters off Long Beach is the Queen Mary. In her day, this proud ocean liner was the preferred mode of transportation for Hollywood's elite. Among the stars who traveled on the Queen Mary were Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, Marlene Dietrich, Bob Hope, Fred Astaire, Cary Grant, and Elizabeth Taylor. Now a floating hotel and museum, the Queen Mary is full of ghost stories.
There's been a lot of stories. There's one in particular. The housemaid was cleaning this room down on B deck. She had straightened out the bed, and all of a sudden the shower comes on. And she goes and checks the door, it's closed, and she knocks on the door, and there's no answer, so she opens the door, looks inside, and there's nobody there, but the shower's running. So she goes inside, shuts it off, and as she turns, she looks down and she sees these wet footprints leading back into the bedroom. So she goes around and checks and looks, and on the bed, you could see a form of somebody laying there, but there's nobody there.
I've talked to a number of people who've had such experiences, and these experiences are real for them. It's hard to discount that. There were some 41 passenger deaths that we know about and some 16 crew deaths. And it's entirely possible that the spirits of these people are still occupying the cabin that they passed away in.
The Queen Mary was one of the largest ships built in the great age of passenger liners. For 14 years, she was the fastest on the Atlantic. During her service, she carried more than 2 million passengers.
Occasionally, there was a death from natural causes in the passenger list. And one of the strangest ones occurred in 1938. A wonderful movie star passed away en route to New York. And the captain was so concerned about bad publicity, he radioed in code to Southampton for instructions. The reply was, see if you could have his body found in New York. So the captain made arrangements with 2 New York longshoremen. They stuffed his body in a big steamer trunk. And 2 days after the ship arrived, his body was found in a New York hotel room. His name, Wallace Beery.
During World War II, the Queen Mary was put into service as a troop transport, carrying up to 15,000 troops at one time. Because of her speed and elusiveness in avoiding U-boats, she became known as the Gray Ghost.
There was one unhappy accident in October 1942. She rammed and sank one of her escorts, the HMS Curaçao. 338 men off the Curaçao lost their lives out of around 400, as it was a considerable loss of life. There have been a number of occasions when psychics have come aboard and conducted various investigations, and they report that they can hear the screams and cries of the men that were injured and drowning in that particular accident. Other areas of the ship are considered to be haunted. The swimming pool, for example, that's considered to be a very active area. We don't actually have any records that anything ever occurred in the swimming pool, but there are a number of psychics who believe that the passengers may have drowned there. And one particular ghost, which a psychic feels very strongly is present, is a little girl by the name of Jackie, who leaves wet footprints, sounds of splashing water, and laughter.
Tom Hennessy is a journalist who has personally researched the haunting of the Queen Mary.
two areas where the most prominent sightings apparently happened was the pool and the area they call Shaft Alley. So I had arranged with the ship's people to have me locked up there in the middle of the night, and I was locked up here for about a half hour. Nothing really untoward happened to me. I was just glad to get out, though. At 3 o'clock in the morning, this is a pretty creepy place, and there's nobody around, and especially with its reputation and so forth. I did see, looking down, there's a corridor of dressing rooms. I saw a light on in one of the dressing rooms, and I decided I was not enough of a ghostbuster to go down there and investigate. I was very close friends with John Gregory, who's a former captain of the Queen Mary, who's since passed on, and he just had a treasure trove of stories about ghostly happenings on the Queen Mary, especially in the pool area right here. There was also the head of security at the time told me that she came in here one day and saw a woman who was in a 1930-ish bathing suit poised at the edge of the pool, ready to dive in. And there was no water in the pool, and she approached the woman to stop her, and she said the woman just vanished before her very eyes.
Probably the most frequently seen ghost is John Petters, a fireman's apprentice who worked in the boiler room. As a precaution during a foggy Atlantic crossing, the captain ordered the watertight doors in Shaft Alley shut. The solid steel doors offered protection for crew and passengers. But there was no such protection for John Petters, who somehow got caught in door 13 and was crushed to death. Years later, security dogs often refuse to go through door 13, and visitors have reported seeing a young man in coveralls who mysteriously disappears.
Shaft Alley really is fascinating. There's a long catwalk there. As soon as the guard left me there, I began to hear noises like clanging on pipes, and as I would walk toward it, it would stop. As I would walk away, it would start again. And I did this 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Same effect every time. There was also moments when it suddenly felt like a rush of air, almost like a breath of some giant person. And other strange experience was I heard voices and loud whispers. And one of them was distinguishable enough that I heard the words, something about closing the door, close the door. And I was pretty unnerved by that. And when the guard came back, I told him, well, it must have been some acoustical mishap or freak that happened, and it must have been somebody far away. And they said, no, that the nearest person to me at that hour of the morning was like 2 decks away. But that I shouldn't be concerned because they had heard the noises too.
You know, you hear so many ghost stories, and you know, and you don't know whether to believe them or not, or this. But when you actually see one yourself, it feels pretty good. I went to the center of the hotel to take the elevator down. I'm standing there waiting for the elevator, and I happen to glance into the mirror, and I see this girl behind me walking towards me. And I'm looking at her, checking her out, and she's very pretty, young and pretty. All of a sudden, she looks old. It's like, whoa. I take a quick second look again, and she's young again. So I turn around to check her out, and there's nobody there. And I said, all right, I finally saw one.
On Hollywood Boulevard, the Vogue Theater is home to a team dedicated to paranormal research. It is also haunted.
In 1972, I created the International Society for Paranormal Research because I wanted to bring in all the other parapsychologists in the United States as well as around the world and other people that have an interest in our field of paranormal research, and I wanted to utilize academic backgrounds to determine how and why this phenomena takes place.
We needed an office in Los Angeles, and the theater was closed down, and we were walking by, and I'm like, this is it. This is our next office. And I said as a joke, I bet you it's haunted too. And I was walking down the aisle, and I thought I heard noise in the seats. And I turned around, and I see all these seats are down. And I didn't think I had noticed that before. So I went through, and I flipped all the seats back up, and I started walking up and down and counting how many seats were down on each trip. And they changed. There would be 7 seats down, then there were 13 seats down, then 27, and then back down to 6, and it back and forth. And I thought, okay, this place must be active. We actually did some research, and we found out that the original Prospect Elementary School was located where the Vogue is today. And in 1901, there was a fire that took place in the schoolhouse, and
6 children and a school teacher died in the fire.
Over the last 2+ years, we have documented 7 entities, 7 resident entities here at the Vogue Theater. 4 of them are children. 1 is a school teacher, her name is Miss Elizabeth. 1 was a projectionist, his name is Fritz. And the other was a maintenance man for Mann's Theaters, and his name is Danny. We encountered the children first. In fact, I did. They were the ones that were flipping up the chairs on my first paranormal experience here at the Vogue.
They had people coming in to give us bids, and this young man ran down the stairs to the theater, and he came up to me very quickly and he said, "Were you just in the projection room?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Yeah, you were. You were just standing behind me." And I said, "No, it wasn't me." And he said, "Well, you know what? There's a ghost in here then, because there was a man standing behind me, and I am leaving, and I will not be back." So that was my first real encounter with Fritz, the projectionist that died of a heart attack in the projection room during a movie.
I have not seen him solidly yet. However, a lot of people have. When I have seen him, it has been down in the auditorium when I have looked up at the projection room, and I have seen him walking back and forth when I know nobody else is in the theater.
The children seem to manifest themselves in different ways. There's a little stuffed dog that is here that we find all over the theater. And there's a little stuffed bear that is here as well that we find in different seats in the auditorium.
Let's see if we get any anomalies around that.
One of the anomalies that we have captured here, or an image that we've captured here on camera, is of the stuffed bear. And while we were in here filming, I decided to just crank off a couple of high-speed photographs. And when I got the pictures back, right in front of the bear's face is a large yellow light that has appeared in front of the bear. And of course, being a professional photographer as well, I am very careful about scrutinizing the photographs. And I checked it out, and there was no reason why you would have a large glowing light in front of the bear, unless it was one of the children.
It's the early 1920s, and Harry Houdini, master of magic, is about to try one of his most difficult stunts. Security held in a straitjacket and suspended upside down from an office building, the man who amazed the world will attempt to free himself. Houdini died in 1926, taking with him to the grave the secrets of his mastery of magic.
Houdini hoped to escape even death, and his widow Bess would hold seances on the roof of the Knickerbocker, attempting to reach her late husband using an agreed-to code word.
Now, Kristen, I'm going to kind of keep my eyes closed, and you tell me where the indicator's going, okay? Each year, I have my annual Houdini seance, and we ask for a medium. How about Eddie? Eddie, are you here? Usually Eddie. Eddie was a 10-year-old boy that died in like the 1880s. Can we talk to Marilyn, Eddie? And questions that we ask are like Marilyn Monroe.
It's getting closer.
What is it doing?
Oh. It's getting close to hello.
Hello? Eddie, is that you?
It stopped on hello.
Eddie, we'd like to talk to Marilyn. Just read out what it's trying to point to, Kristen.
It's pointing towards yes.
Okay. Marilyn, you and Joe DiMaggio honeymooned here, right?
It's right, almost on yes. Over there at the corner, where the Ouija board is at, I saw a ghost up in the ceiling, and it was like foggy, a grayish color. It was a woman in her late 40s. I see a lot of ghosts. I'm trying to figure out actually what the meaning of that is, whether the ghosts are trying to tell me something. Yes.
You live here at the Knickerbocker, right?
Yes.
Some of my friends were playing with the Ouija board and asking about Frank Sinatra, which is cigars. One of his requests when he spoke through the Ouija board were for 3 things. It was girls, it was whiskey, and a cigar.
The oldest continuous running soundstage in Hollywood is known as the Occidental Studios. The Occidental has more than its share of ghosts.
This used to be the Mary Pickford stages. She had a little house here that they built for her because she was always late, you know, to come in for her call times in the morning for her shoots.
Stage 1 was used in Hollywood's early days, when film stars like Charlie Chaplin worked beneath its unique glass ceiling, which allowed filmmakers to use natural light.
It has a lot of history to it. People have died here on the stage. One guy was working 24 hours, and they found him in the morning dead. So it got the name Accidental Studios, people started to call it. There are definitely some spirits that are here, and that's just from experience and sometimes the feelings that you get when you're by yourself here, especially late at night.
Late night here is kind of scary when it kind of creaks and noises and all that, and you know you're by yourself, but yet you don't feel alone. People have heard voices and laughing noise and all that.
At night, when we're closing up the facility, we'll go in, I'll lock doors, shut off lights, and we'll go to alarm the perimeters and alarm the studio. And there's different zones that tell us that if windows and doors are opened, and it will register that they're still open. So we'll go back and do it a second time. After you do it like the third time, I'll make sure everything's locked tight and I'll just leave.
It kind of shakes you up a little bit when it's late because these stages get really quiet at night. So when you hear noises like banging against metal, loud, and you think, what could that possibly be?
What I often do on this stage, when I go home at night, I kind of look to the stage and I say, thank you, ghosts, good night, see you tomorrow, thank you for letting me be okay.
One night, it was like probably 2 o'clock in the morning. We're back in the back parking lot joking about the ghosts, talking trash about, the ghosts couldn't scare us. And there's a door that's open, and it doesn't have a mechanism that closes it. It's just kind of, you prop something behind it to keep it open. And as we're talking loud about the ghost, the door just slams, just out the blue, very hard. And we kind of looked at each other and said, okay, all right, we got the picture.
It has a haunted hallway. It's a rumor, it's a fact, it's fiction, it's there.
I think you get the vibes, and the ghosts are still upstairs here. Here's our windy staircase. It's kind of spooky up here. We've heard like voices up here. The state manager have heard voices. One person saw a lady hovering up in the air, and he was so scared that her arms was sticking up. And farther down there in the hallway too, a man was sleeping, and the door kept opening and closing on him all by itself. So, I call it our blood light, a red light here. But there's times when I turn lights off and I can swear I see something out the corner of my eye. I think it's just me, but maybe not. I don't know. But the ghost is definitely haunted. It's just too weird and too creepy down here by itself. And I felt too many weird vibes, just too weird, I think.
Man, it's hard to say, Hundreds and hundreds of people have worked here at the studio over the years, and it's hard to say. I mean, maybe it's Mary Pickford. She had a restless spirit as a living person, so you never know. Maybe it lives on.
The influence of Hollywood and its studios extends to the entire entertainment industry. Only a few miles away, Knott's Berry Farm transforms its amusement park into a terrifying world haunted by many of Hollywood's most ghoulish characters.
Knott's Berry Farm by day is we call ourselves the friendliest place in the West. Knott's Scary Farm becomes the most scary place in the West. And this is our 27th year of producing what has become the longest running, most highly attended live Halloween event in the world. We employ a number of very sick and twisted people. And we have a creative team which includes full-time designers, show writers, producers, audio engineers, lighting people. You can't live in Southern California and work in the entertainment industry without being influenced by Hollywood. This is entertainment mecca. Many of the people who help us build Haunt, work films, work television, they're working the business, and we use as much of that expertise as possible.
When I do regular film or regular anything else, it's a lot lighter because the camera can pick up a lot, you see. But out there in the dark, you need it more dramatic because out there it's going to look more subtle.
I'm a facialist, an esthetician, and a professional makeup artist, and graduate of Joe Blasco Makeup School, which is one of the finest schools. And just love doing it.
I came all the way from Mobile, Alabama. Very determined. I wanted to be here, so there was nothing that was going to stop me. I flew in last week, actually, just to be here for Haunt.
As far as attendance for Halloween Haunt, we're in the hundreds of thousands. We transform our park literally from front to back, inside and out, to create a total immersion experience of scare and horror and haunting for adults. This is not a kid-friendly boo scare Halloween event. This is a fairly sophisticated, adult-intended, rather terrifying experience where you will be scared.
That's what we're paid to do. We go around and we jump out at people and scare them and just have a good time.
I'm so beautiful. So beautiful. I am the bride of Dracula. My favorite targets is that 20 or 30-something guy that's here at the haunt. And they run and scream just like a girl. Chase them all through Ghost Town. I do a freeze thing, and I stare people down. They're not sure if I'm a statue or not. Then I come out of the stance and go after them.
One of the most important parts of our ensemble is the chest protector. Why do you need a chest protector? Well, there's some people that don't like to be scared, or when they do scare, they naturally react, and this is for the monster's protection. Very important.
Ghost Town is an old west town, which is rather decrepit looking, and we completely shroud it in fog, and we staff it with about 100 monsters who literally jump out and scare the wits out of everybody who comes through that area.
Not Scary Farm recognized that some of its own employees were disturbed by the Halloween Haunt experience.
One of the most common characteristics of a person who experiences anxiety is they will avoid participating in the activity that is eliciting the fear. What we find when fear becomes disenabling is it increases our heart rate. It activates an adrenaline flow, and typically there will be tremors associated with that. Many times the person may begin to perspire. And given these characteristics, people find them to be quite uncomfortable, and that's what begins to activate the avoidance of the situation.
An idea came about to try to offer counseling of some sort for these people to allow them to face literally their fears.
I can say I'm the biggest chicken. I'm afraid of the boogeyman. I won't sleep with my closet door open. I'm afraid of the dark. And Halloween Haunt is one of the things I won't walk through without a flashlight.
The name of the course is the Fear Buster School. The primary curriculum emphasis is upon graduated exposure, progressive relaxation, and constructive thinking.
The last class session will end in a field trip to go through one of these mazes one by one with their professor. If they get through that, then they get their bachelor's in bravery degree, which is an actual diploma that Knott's Berry Farm in association with Pepperdine University will commission to them.
I don't know which maze we're going to be going through, but we have to officially walk through a maze, and I have a goal to try to get through that one at least.
We're in the Horrorwood Hotel, and this is inspired by great movies from horrordom. Horror movies, scare movies have always been popular, and this is an experience where you are live, you are part of the show.
You know, I think they like being scared because of one very fundamental reason. If you're sitting next to a guy or girl, it gives you a big chance to, like, suddenly grab them. That's a good introduction. I think it all boils down to teenage glands.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the star of our show, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
We're very, very pleased to have the biggest horror celebrity associated with this event. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, is back for her 13th year as hostess of Halloween Haunt.
Elvira is actually a product of Hollywood. Her mother was a sorceress, my mother, and my father was a TV critic. So you put those two together and you end up with me. This is my 13th Halloween Haunt in a period of 18 years. It's kind of my home away from home.
Her show is a very high-energy, almost Vegas-style review, and it's a very, very fun show, one of the most popular things we do here at the Scary Farm.
What's your favorite ride here at Knott's? me. Everybody's favorite thrill ride.
On Hollywood Boulevard, Elvira and her friends are immortalized in wax.
The Hollywood Wax Museum has been on Hollywood Boulevard for 36 years. This actually used to be a speakeasy. And in those days, they had rumors that people were killed, shot in them, stuff like that, and they had ghosts running around. At night, when you have the lights out and you're walking around, it does get creepy because you can hear things walking around. And you can hear nicks and cracks. There was times I wanted to leave the building as fast as I could.
I was terrified of this place as a young child. I came here when we were 6. And I'm still scared of this place. It's scary all by yourself. There's just a bunch of little glints of eyes and bodies, and you never know.
Most people, the first thing they look at is the eyes of the wax figure. They look at the wax figure and they'll direct their eyes right to the eyes.
Hollywood kind of beckons all those people from all over the country, all the vampires, the ghouls, the ghosts. They kind of gravitate toward Hollywood. I don't know. I guess it's the long history of films that have been made there. You know, the Dracula films, the monster movies. Everybody wants to come and be in their own monster movie.
Like Dracula, Alejandro Quesada sleeps by day and works by night. He makes prosthetic teeth worn by vampires both inside and outside the movie industry.
I've developed my own style of fang making. As you can see, the vampire scene is a relatively new thing in the respect that the aesthetic visual pleasure of a vampire and becoming one and the fantasy and playing that out has really only been possible when you have the tools to do that. I've done many different styles for many different types of vampires that require different styles. Everybody's going to have their own personal interpretation of what a vampire is. I'm not saying I think therefore I am. Well, I think I am. I think there are many people that really identify not only with night energy, but there are many people that don't like the sun, they hate it. And it kind of gives you a surrealistic existence, a somnambulistic state almost. It's a magical feeling.
I lived in a very old house that was built in 1910 that once had a party there with Charlie Chaplin and everyone, where there were the Ziegfeld girls dancing, and apparently one of them died there in the swimming pool, which was the first swimming pool in Hollywood. And when I lived there, I kept seeing a dark shadow swimming through the bottom of the swimming pool. I'll tell you, ooh, the little hairs are standing up on the back of my neck. But I had a person come to my house and exorcise it. A little puff of smoke and a little this and that, and I felt a whole lot better afterwards.
Other homes are haunted. Kathy Layton was visiting her son and his roommate in their rented house in the hills above Hollywood when she had an unsettling paranormal encounter.
The very first experience, I was sleeping on the living room sofa, and I was very abruptly awakened by this blinding white light. I was completely in shock because the entire room was this bright white light, and I laid there just scared to death. I couldn't talk. I was absolutely paralyzed, and the boys were both sleeping upstairs in their own rooms. So I laid as if I were still asleep on the sofa for 2.5 hours until daybreak. I had no idea what had happened. So the following morning when I got up after very little sleep, all that I told my son was that I had seen this very unusual light in the hills. I didn't want to say anything to them because they had just moved in, and I was hoping that it was, just an isolated incident.
Almost every night I would be waking up around 3 a.m. It just always happened to be the same time. And I would see almost like, I don't want to say that like I saw a person, male or female. Couldn't really see it, I would just see the image. It was weird because as soon as I'd lay down, it wouldn't be there anymore. It would only be really when I would kind of sit up. But a lot of the time when I'm laying in my bed, almost like I feel something hovering above me.
I was asleep and my dog was at the foot of my bed, and he was running to the window all of a sudden. I pull open the drapes and I see this ambient glow from the hill, like these two light sources just glowing off and on.
Sean
has the other infrared camera.
Called in to investigate, Larry and his team of paranormal investigators prepare the equipment they will need. Magnetometers, temperature gauges, and infrared cameras.
A second camera. Okay. In this case, the activity that is going on in the house seems to be pretty minor. I think it could be kind of a benevolent being that could be hanging out in the house. I bring in the team members, of course, the scientists as well as the clairvoyant members, and what we will do is we will interview the family first. While that is taking place, it gives me an opportunity as a parapsychologist to analyze the people that are in the house and even further delve into what we think is going on.
It was just, I abruptly awoke.
While Larry talks to the family, clairvoyant members of the investigative team have the opportunity to tune into the house.
So bright, it was the blinding.
Sometimes, the day before I'm going on an investigation, I will get some impressions of the house.
I really think there's something with my bedroom.
But I try and hold off on everything until I get to the space, because since I'm feeling, I need to get those first impressions, and I'm using my clairsentient abilities to do that.
And do you feel something upstairs? Which side? This side? Okay, left side. Is that where your bedroom is? Okay.
It's the first room up there.
I'm picking up two things. I'm thinking one is a very benign, one is a little bit more active. A clairsentient feels things. It's just a very intricate knowing. And when I can pick up emotions from a ghost, I'm actually getting the feeling and I'm getting into the soul of that ghost. He may have even OD'd here. I also have clairvoyant abilities, which means that you can see into the past, the present, or the future. And here is a feminine energy. This is a feminine energy. As far as the active stuff, I believe that it is this younger man, between 26 and 32.
All right, why don't we go ahead, let's move upstairs to Jeremy's bedroom and see what we can get. Because I have the team with clairvoyant abilities, we can now not only capture what is scientifically taking place, but the clairvoyant team can identify and communicate with an actual entity. Why don't you come walk in? It's small, so just...
I am an empath and a transmedium. A transmedium is a person who actually can allow an entity to step into their body and communicate. When an entity steps in, it feels like all my internal organs, everything is gone, and I am just one great big glove, and I feel them slip in, and a lot of times I stop having any sensation from the neck down.
Is this somebody stepping in? Got chills up my back. Can I have the temperature gauge? No?
My consciousness recedes a little bit to the back, and a lot of times I can still see out in my eyes, but it feels like I'm looking through another person in front of me.
Dana, are you there too? Can you blink? Blink for me, Dana.
I can hear conversations, but what the entity is feeling or thinking at that time overshadows anything else that's happening outside of my body.
Are you okay? Is this a male or female? Can you tell?
Does he have some messages that he wants to give? There must be a reason that you're here. Is there a reason, that something that we can help you with, or that you need us to understand?
Oh, you're okay? She just came out. Are you okay?
It's over here. It's cold here.
Okay.
It's cold here right now. I mean, everything else is warm, but I'm just feeling, and it's up, it's moving. We do play off of one another. If Dana is channeling, even if I find something over here, I will be there to support Dana. And I find that the same thing, if I find something over here, they will support me. So we flow and we ebb. And then Larry keeps the cohesiveness and the scientificness of the group. It's here, it's here.
Because I do have some clairvoyant abilities, I have to maintain the scientific side of the house because
It is kind of difficult for me at times to say, well, this piece of equipment doesn't really show anything, yet I know that someone is standing in front of me.
What is it?
It's a male. He's a floater. So it has been a little dilemma through the years, but it is important to maintain that scientific background due to the fact that society as a whole is still unconvinced that there is life after death. So we have to prove scientifically that this phenomena takes place. Do you know why your hand is distorting now?
No, but it really hurts.
Can you put it down, straight down?
Don't touch it, don't touch it, don't touch it. Okay, nice.
You okay? Yeah, you stepped down.
This one did.
Okay.
This one was like, please, this doesn't feel good.
That's cool. Here, why don't you walk out? Let's see.
It's not really frightening. It's kind of exciting, especially when it happens. It's an opportunity for us to speak with an entity in real time through a human body. So it's really very exciting.
Go ahead.
So the guy is very angry because all this stuff was happening to him and stuff that was beyond his control. And he's like very angry and frustrated and everything was closing in on him. And then he lost it. He snapped. But there's no harm intended to anybody here. It's just he is still upset.
He seems to be just kind of curious on you guys being in the house. And he has nothing against you at all. He's just kind of curious that other people are now living in the house where he used to live. Which,
wait, can I cut you off? I don't know if it's just me. I'm like...
Yeah, you're starting to get really
like my
hot.
eyes are... Yeah. Like I feel like they're getting white. It's weird. Like
yeah, you're starting
I don't know
to,
if it's just me or what, but
I was getting that earlier. And I thought I was gonna
like I thought I was gonna pass out right now.
Right.
Well, that's what you look like. You're getting really red. Your ears are getting red. It could be because he's trying to disturb the environment a little bit here.
Like my eyes are getting like I'm seeing stars. It's going away now, but I don't know if that has anything to do with this or I'm just nervous or.
Yeah, Linda's just gonna touch you, make sure that the energy kind of goes away a little bit. You look better though.
And would he have been the cause of the bright light in the room?
He could be. We find that entities sometimes project a light, or you see a light rather than an image of a person. And it's interesting that you mentioned the amber color as well, because I find that that is the most common color that we see. I kind of feel that it's going to stop pretty soon, that it's going to go away. Because we've been here tonight, we have determined that it is a male presence. Many times in a situation like this, once we identify the entity, that's enough for them. Any questions, Kathy?
It's very much a relief to me. The room feels completely different to me. It's like you've been released. Just has a different feel to it altogether.
We now know the unknown, and so I don't know. It's just definitely relief, and to know that there's nothing to fear. And
I think mainly understanding what you're dealing with is helpful.
That's key,
yes,
sure.
I think so.
Absolutely. Well, great.
Good.
Well, thanks.
Thank you very
much.
You're welcome.
Very much.
Nice meeting you. Nice meeting you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Thanks,
that's
Jeff.
okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Hollywood is a place where spirits of stars long dead live on in our consciousness, forever immortalized by their flickering image upon the silver screen. Its power reaches far beyond the neon lights of Hollywood Boulevard to create a world where dreams and reality blur. Perhaps these dreams are a beacon to ghostly spirits returning for one last curtain call in the land of shadow and light.